All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to try to unpack this whole situation with, Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, Kanye, The Game, and I guess we'll throw Tina Knowles in there too. I mean, you've seen the headlines, right?
Yeah, quite the mix.
It is. We've got audio, we've got legal documents, we've got online commentary, a whole lot of stuff. This should be a pretty good deep dive. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think this really highlights how artists nowadays, they're trying to
Yeah.
balance their personal lives with their public image. And then, of course, you throw the lawn into the mix.
Yeah.
And then you throw in social media, which makes everything just 10 times louder.
Yeah, no, totally. So let's rewind a little bit. This all kind of goes back to the whole Megan Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez situation. That's been going on since what, 2020, right?
Hmm.
So Megan's team is actually, right now, they're trying to get Tory Lanez to answer questions under oath for this, I guess, kind of separate lawsuit. They're going after this blogger that they think was working with Lanez to spread some negative information about Megan.
Yeah, they're calling it a deposition. I mean, that's the legal term.
Deposition, okay.
And what's interesting here is that, obviously Lanez is incarcerated right now. And Megan's team wants to question him while he's in prison. So Lanez's team is saying, well, we never agreed to this.
Right, and that's kind of where things get interesting. I mean, like, this is where it gets a little wild. So, in the middle of all this legal back and forth audio surfaces of Lena's rapping in prison.
And not just rapping, there's a fight going on.
A full-blown, like,
Mhm.
brawl. I mean, pepper spray, people yelling, you name it, complete chaos. And he's, like, rapping in the middle of it, even telling somebody, like, keep the camera rolling.
Keep the camera rolling in the middle of this fight. Wow. All right, you guys, this is nuts. Let's just listen to it.
Okay.
This is the audio of Tory Lanez rapping in prison while there's a fight breaking out.
So, I mean, the question is, what is going on here? Like, I'm in prison, I'm facing serious charges, there's a brawl happening next to me, and I decide to record some music. Like, is this some real, genuine, artistic expression? Or what's the deal?
It's a good question. At first I thought, well, maybe this is just him finding solace in music. Like, this is how he copes, especially in this kind of extreme situation. It's raw, it's unfiltered, it's straight from his reality.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But then I started thinking, is this a PR move? Like, is this calculated? Is this about staying relevant, like maintaining his image, maybe even trying to drum up some sympathy despite the legal troubles? I mean, he's not exactly hiding from the cameras.
Yeah, you have to wonder if he's trying to, control the narrative a little bit.
Right. It kind of raises a bigger question for me, which is how do we as the public, how do we react when artists that we like or admire are accused of doing something wrong? Do we separate the art from the artist? Is talent an excuse for bad behavior? And especially with hip hop, I mean, there's always been that line between the persona and the real life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's always been blurry. And social media has made it even blurrier and a lot more public, too. And, things move so fast online, it's hard to keep up.
Speaking of online firestorms, this whole Kanye West and the Game thing, they have a song, and they decided to sample, wait for it, Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mom.
Yeah, I definitely did see that one coming. That one feels, I don't know, audacious, like, especially with Tina Knowles. She's, kind of known for staying out of the drama.
Yeah, no, it definitely raised my eyebrows. They're using a sample of her voice from the Jennifer Hudson movie, and the way they're promoting the song is, let's just say it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, what were they thinking? Is it really okay to just take someone's voice like that and just use it? Especially someone like Tina Knowles, who's, not exactly chasing fame.
Right. I mean, before we get into that, why don't we actually just listen to a little bit of the song so people can hear how they're using her voice?
Okay, yeah, good idea.
All right, so that's the song. I mean, beyond the song itself, what's really causing a stir is how they're promoting it. Some of it's pretty indefensible.
Yeah, for sure. The stuff they've been doing on social media, targeting Tina Knowles, I mean, disrespectful is putting it mildly.
Kanye, I mean, he posted a picture of Jennifer Hudson as Tina Knowles, right? And the caption was, Game.F slide for the guys. and then he sent a direct message to Tina Knowles, sent her a picture of a banana peel, and said, this is Game's phone.
Wow.
I mean, what do you even say to that? It feels like he's trying to provoke a reaction.
Even the Breakfast Club called them out for that. For being disrespectful, I mean. And they're not exactly known for holding back, right?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. If the Breakfast Club is telling you to chill out, you've probably gone too far.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's interesting. We have these two situations, right? They're different, but in a weird way, they both kind of touch on the same questions. Like, Where's the line with creative expression? Is it ever okay to use someone's personal life just for entertainment? And, this whole thing about the internet and the constant need for attention, how does that affect how we treat people, especially those who aren't seeking the spotlight?
It really makes you think,
Mhm.
like, has the digital age completely changed the rules?
Mm,
Almost like there's no line between public and private anymore.
yeah. And I think that's something we're going to have to unpack a little bit more when we come back. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to dive a little deeper into all of this with, with the expert analysis of what all of this means for hip hop, for celebrity culture, and I guess just the internet in general.
Looking forward to it. What really strikes me about this whole Kanye the Game thing is that it feels like they're trying to weaponize controversy
Yeah.
to promote their music, which, I mean, it's not new, right? We see this all the time, especially in hip hop. Get people talking, generate that buzz, even if it's for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and it's definitely working. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it, right?
Right.
But it makes you wonder, like, what's the cost of all of this? Are we really okay with just sacrificing basic decency, basic respect for clicks, for streams?
I hear you. It's like this downward spiral. Negativity gets rewarded, outrage gets rewarded. So, of course, we keep seeing more of it.
Right.
But we can't forget, like, at the end of the day, there are real people who are affected by this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, in this case, Tina Knowles. I mean,
Right.
she's a mother, she's a grandmother, she's a respected figure. She's someone who's generally stayed out of the spotlight, right?
Right.
And then, all of a sudden, she's just dragged into this whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
seemingly without her consent.
Yeah, and that's the part that really kind of sticks with me. Like, where is the line between creative expression and just taking advantage of somebody? I mean,
Right.
they're sampling her voice without permission, and then they're making fun of her on social media.
Yeah, it brings up a whole other issue, right? Like, the ethics of sampling,
Yeah.
which is a tricky thing to navigate sometimes.
Mhm.
Because there have been cases where artists have been able to sample without permission, as long as they can claim fair use.
Hmm.
Like if the sample is transformed in a new and unique way.
Yeah.
But this just feels different,
Hmm.
especially with the social media posts on top of it.
Right. It's not just about the sample itself. It's the disrespect that's piled on top of it. It's like they're using her and I guess by extension Beyonce just to create hype for their song. It's just
Mhm.
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. It feels really exploitative,
Yeah.
especially because Tina Knowles is not someone who's like, actively in the public eye
Hmm.
looking for that attention. It just feels wrong. It feels like a violation.
Yeah. So I mean, how do we reconcile this? How do we protect creativity, but at the same time, protect people?
Hmm. I don't know. It's a tough one. Maybe it comes down to intent.
Yeah.
Are you genuinely trying to make something new, something meaningful? Or are you just trying to get attention, even if it means hurting people in the process?
Yeah. And maybe it also comes down to us as the audience, as consumers of all this.
Right.
Like maybe we need to be a little more aware of what we're consuming, who we're supporting, and where our attention is going. If we just like ignore this kind of negativity, maybe it will go away.
I mean, I think that's part of it. Like every click, every stream, every share, it's all a vote.
Mm.
We're basically telling the industry what we want more of. And if we keep rewarding bad behavior, well, we're going to keep getting more of it.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap up the analysis of these two controversies, let's go back to the prison freestyle for a second because I kept thinking about it. It feels like it's a weird parallel to what Kanye and the Game are doing, even though the situations are totally different.
I see what you mean. Yeah, in both cases, you have these artists who are in a really difficult situation.
Yeah.
And they're trying to control their narrative. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So Lanez is facing charges. He's incarcerated, and there's this brawl breaking out right next to him. And his response is just to keep performing, like keep rapping, keep the cameras rolling.
Camera rolling, that really stuck out to me.
Right. It's almost like this meta commentary on everything. Like everything is content now, everything is documented.
Yeah.
And then you have Kanye and the Game. They're both trying to stay relevant in this online world where everything's so loud and they resort to these tactics that are super attention grabbing, but they're taking advantage of Tina Knowles.
Right. And they're doing it without her consent. It's all about control, right? Control in a world where the line between public and private is almost non-existent.
Right, right. Wow, this is a lot to unpack. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface, but it's a good starting point.
I agree. Hopefully it's inspired our listeners to kind of dig a little deeper, think for themselves,
Yeah.
and keep these conversations going.
Yeah. So before we move on, let's take a minute to recap what we've talked about today, just the key takeaways from our deep dive.
Okay, so we explored the relationship between music, legal battles, and social media. And we saw how artists navigate controversy, sometimes trying to use it to their advantage, and and often at the expense of other people.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about the ethics of sampling, what it means to be a responsible consumer of music, and, the power that we all have to shape the kind of content that we see and the kind of content that's rewarded.
Right, and these aren't just questions for hip-hop or even the music industry. These are questions that apply to all forms of media and entertainment.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, we're all navigating this new world together. We're all trying to figure out where the lines are, how to be respectful.
Absolutely, and it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah. So what can we do? I mean, how do we navigate this world without losing sight of, just basic decency?
I think a big part of it is just being aware. Being aware of the power dynamics, being aware of the impact that our choices have online and offline.
And being willing to speak up,
Right.
right? To call people out when they're being disrespectful and to support the artists and creators who are trying to do things the right way.
Exactly. We can't just sit back and passively consume this stuff. We have a responsibility to be thoughtful and to use our voices and to demand better.
Okay, this has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I feel like I said, we barely scratched the surface, but it's a good starting point.
I agree. And hopefully, it's given our listeners something to think about, encourage them to look a little closer at these stories.
So thank you for joining us today on this deep dive into hip-hop, legal issues, and social media. We hope that it's given you some things to think about and that you'll continue to look closer at the stories behind the headlines.
And remember, the demand for attention never justifies being disrespectful. Choose wisely, consume consciously, and use your voice to make a difference.
It's like we're all, I don't know, just trying to figure out how to walk in this digital world where the ground is constantly shifting beneath us.
Yeah, it's like constantly trying to find your balance.
But I think the important thing is that we're at least trying, right? Like we're not just giving up, we're not just blindly accepting everything that's thrown at us. We're asking questions, we're pushing back, we're having these conversations.
Yeah, I think that's crucial because silence just means that we're accepting things as they are, and we can't afford to do that, especially when we see things that are just flat out wrong.
It's so interesting to me how both of these situations, even though they're so different on the surface, they both kind of get at this whole idea of control. Like, how do we control our own narratives in this digital age?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like on one hand, you have Tory Lanez. He's dealing with these legal battles. He's incarcerated, and his response is to keep making music, to keep performing. Even in the middle of prison brawl, he's saying, "I'm still here. I'm still in control."
Keep the camera rolling.
Yeah, keep the camera rolling.
And then you have Kanye in the game, and it's like they're also trying to control their narrative, trying to stay relevant in this online world that's so loud and chaotic, but they're doing it by using someone else's story without their consent.
And it really raises those questions about, agency, like how much control do we actually have over our own stories, our own images, especially when we're in the spotlight.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important question for all of us to consider, not just artists and celebrities, but all of us, because we're all participating in this online culture.
Absolutely.
So what can we do? Like, how do we navigate this world without losing ourselves, without losing sight of our values?
I think it starts with awareness, like being aware of how these systems work, being aware of the power dynamics, and being aware of the impact that our choices have. Every click, every share, it all has an impact.
And I think it's also about being willing to use our voices, right? Like to speak up when we see something that's not right, to support the artists and creators who are trying to do things in a way that's ethical and respectful.
Exactly. We can't just be passive observers in all of this.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. Thank you for diving into all of this with me.
Yeah, it's been great. And I hope it's inspired our listeners to keep thinking about these issues and to keep having these conversations, because they're really important.
So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into hip-hop, legal battles, and social media. We hope this has given you something to think about and that you'll, keep questioning, keep exploring, keep looking a little deeper at the stories behind the headlines.
Remember, the demand for attention never justifies disrespect. Choose wisely, consume consciously, and use your voice to make the internet a better place.
That's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.